off the first 100-day week with our morning briefing. How does everybody feel? You like the morning briefings? Okay, we do too. That's why we're doing them. It's good to see all of you. I brought a friend out here today who is happy to take your questions, but first, some remarks. At 11 o'clock, President Trump will participate in a National Day of Prayer event where he will invite Americans of all faiths across the country to join him in asking for God's continued blessings over our great country. During the event, the president will sign an executive order establishing a Religious Liberty Commission. Later today, President Trump will travel to the University of Alabama to deliver a commencement address to the graduating class of 2025. Last night, we saw yet again why President Trump is our deal maker in chief. We secured a historic agreement to establish the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. This is a first-of-its-kind economic partnership for the reconstruction and long-term economic success of Ukraine that the United States will greatly benefit from. This partnership represents the United States taking an economic stake in securing a free, peaceful, and sovereign future for Ukraine. This partnership establishes a fund that will receive 50% of royalties, license fees, and other similar payments from natural resource projects in Ukraine. President Trump has been clear from the beginning. He wants the killing in this brutal war to end. This agreement shows how invested the president is in securing a truly lasting peace. To mark President Trump's triumphant first 100 days in office, we've detailed all week how President Trump has been hard at work delivering on the promises he made to the American people. And yesterday, the president once again showcased why he is the most transparent and accessible president in American history when he held his fourth open press cabinet meeting. Every cabinet secretary went into great detail, explaining how their respective agencies are making life better for American families and businesses. And then the president allowed all of you to ask questions on anything you wanted afterwards. One of the main reasons President Trump won nearly 80 million votes, swept all 7 battleground states, and received a resounding mandate from the American public is because of the contrast he presented during the campaign and continues to this day. Everything in President Trump's agenda is grounded in one thing: common sense. While the Democrat Party went off the deep end and doubled down on pure craziness, President Trump pledged to restore common sense back to the United States of America. In a little more than 3 months, that's exactly what he's done. He recognized that America is a sovereign nation that cannot survive if it does not protect its territorial borders. So he secured the border in record time and ended the mass invasion of tens of millions of illegal aliens into our homeland. The president knows his top responsibility is ensuring the safety of the American people, which is why he's arresting violent illegal alien invaders in our communities who threaten our public safety. And it's unacceptable to President Trump to allow rampant waste, fraud, and abuse of Americans' precious tax dollars, which is why the president championed a historic DOGE effort that saved nearly $200 billion already. President Trump knows America is blessed with an abundance of liquid gold below our feet in the form of fossil fuels. So he ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy and is restoring American energy dominance to lower costs and strengthen our national security. President Trump believes Americans should be free to drive whatever car they want, so he ended Joe Biden's disastrous EV mandate and promoted true consumer choice. President Trump stood up for the Constitution's promise of colorblind equality before the law, so he terminated radical DEI preferencing in federal contracting and directed federal agencies to relentlessly combat private sector discrimination. DEI seeks to divide and pit Americans against each other based on immutable characteristics. President Trump put an end to it. In President Trump's America, individual dignity, hard work, and excellence are the only things that will determine if you get ahead. President Trump is a proud free speech champion, which is why he ended Joe Biden's trampling of free speech rights and the federal government's censorship of American speech on online platforms. The president believes college students have a right to speak their minds and go to school safely. Again, common sense. So he took bold action to protect Jewish American students from harassment by pro-Hamas radicals on their campuses. And President Trump knows that America's children are our future, and he'll never stop fighting for them. That's why he ended the radical, un-American indoctrination of children by eliminating support for divisive, radical gender ideology and equity ideology, and why the president protected parents' fundamental rights. And lastly, the president believes in fundamental biology. Isn't that something? which is why he made it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two sexes, male and female. And because men and women are biologically different, President Trump ended the unfair, demeaning practice of forcing women to compete against men in sports and having their private spaces invaded. When President Trump promised a complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense, he meant it. And over the next 100 days, get ready for historic trade deals, budget deals, and peace deals.